Left raising his brother's children, the cowboy's life changed when she walked in with warm bread and a smile. Eli Rourke had always thought life on Redspire would be simple. The frontier planet was harsh, but he knew how to handle it. The red dust, jagged cliffs, and narrow canyons were familiar friends. He had been a cowboy all his life, riding hover steeds, fixing broken wagons, and guiding cargo across unsettled lands. Life was hard, yes, but he knew it. He liked the quiet. Then came the letter. It was short, official, and heavy with words that felt sharper than any knife. His brother, his only sibling, had died in an accident. The young children left behind, 3 bright-eyed kids, were now Eli's responsibility. Eli dropped the letter and ran his hands through his dusty hair. "Why me?" he muttered. He had never been a father. He had never even taken care of more than a small farm robot before. And now, suddenly, he had 3 children depending on him. He glanced at the small homestead, built with wood panels and metal scraps salvaged from old space freighters. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. Now it had to be a home, for the first time for more than himself. The eldest child, Sammy, was 8, cautious and quiet, always watching Eli with wide, serious eyes. Leela, 6, had curiosity in her every movement, often disappearing to explore the cliffs and crevices near the homestead. And the youngest, Milo, barely 3, clung to the memory of his father and cried at every shadow. Eli had never been good with children. His life had been about survival, work, and solitude. Yet looking at them now, something inside him shifted. They were scared, yes, but they were also full of life. They needed someone, and he could not walk away. The first few days were chaos. The children cried at mealtimes, refused to sleep in their small, rattling bunks, and asked endless questions. "Why did Daddy go away? Where is Mommy? Can we ride the hover steeds today?" Eli tried his best. He cooked simple meals from rations, filled water tanks, and checked the fences. He even tried telling stories at night, though he stammered and forgot lines. The children listened politely, but the sadness in their eyes never left. It was tiring, exhausting, and lonely. One morning, Eli woke before sunrise, as was his habit. The wind whistled through the canyon, and the dusk glowed faint red under the twin suns. He fed the animals, repaired a broken fence, and then carried buckets of water to the small garden. The garden was struggling. Redspire was not kind to crops, but it was the only source of fresh vegetables for the children. As he worked, Milo toddled beside him, wobbling in the uneven dirt. "Cowboy," he said, pointing at Eli's hat. "Cowboy ride now." "Not today, little one," Eli said, smiling despite himself. "We need to eat first." Milo pouted but followed, trusting his new guardian. By mid-morning, the children were busy exploring rocks and collecting strange, glowing stones. Eli was thankful for the brief quiet. That's when he heard it, the faint hum of an approaching hovercraft. He stopped, ears alert. Visitors were rare on Redspire, and unexpected ones were always suspicious. He grabbed his rifle, more as a habit than necessity, and crept toward the ridge. Down below, a figure appeared, a woman, walking confidently beside a small hovercraft. She carried baskets and crates, and the smell hit Eli even from this distance. Fresh bread. Warm bread, baked somewhere far from the barren planet. She looked human, but there was something extraordinary about the way she moved. Her eyes scanned the land as if she understood it better than the locals. Her smile was soft, genuine, and, most surprisingly, meant for him. The children noticed her too. Leela ran ahead, her little boots kicking dust into the air. "Bread!" she shouted. "Someone brought bread." Eli ran after her, heart pounding. He didn't know who she was or why she came, but he knew one thing: she brought hope. The woman reached the homestead and set down her baskets. Bread, fresh and golden, steamed in the morning light. She waved at the children, and they ran to her, giggling, tugging at her hands. Milo hid behind Eli but peeked curiously. "Hello," she said, her voice soft, melodic, and comforting. "I'm Lyra Vale. I travel between settlements, delivering food and news." Eli nodded, unsure what to say. "Eli Rourke," he replied. "These are my brother's children." Lyra knelt and offered the bread. "I see, you're taking care of them. That's hard work and brave." Brave. Eli hadn't thought of himself that way. He just did what needed to be done. The children devoured the bread greedily. Leela, crumbs around her mouth, looked up at Eli with a grin. "She's nice," she said. Lyra laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "I try, and it looks like you've got a team here. Strong kids, clever, curious." Eli felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. Maybe this was more than just help. Maybe this was the beginning of a new life. The next hours passed quickly. Lyra taught the children small tricks: how to measure water with the sun, how to patch fences using scraps, and even how to bake small loaves in a portable oven she carried. Eli watched, fascinated. The children laughed, learned, and discovered joy again. He saw in them what he hadn't realized he needed: laughter, hope, and a sense of wonder. When the sun began to set, painting the sky red and gold, Eli found himself talking to Lyra about life on Redspire. She listened, genuinely interested, asking questions and giving advice. It wasn't just polite conversation. It felt like a connection he hadn't felt in a long time. As night fell, the wind howled outside, carrying dust and cold air. Eli tucked the children into bed, and for the first time they didn't cry themselves to sleep. Lyra stayed behind, helping him secure the homestead for the night. "You've got a good heart, Eli," she said quietly. "They'll be safe here, and I think you'll do well too." He didn't answer immediately. Her words sank deep into him. He had been wandering the frontier, alone, thinking that solitude was his strength. But maybe strength wasn't just survival. Maybe it was caring, protecting, and building something that mattered. That night, Eli sat outside, looking at the twin moons rising over the jagged cliffs. The wind carried the faint smell of bread still in the air, and the sound of the children's soft breathing from inside made him feel responsible in a way that mattered. Lyra's visit had changed something. She didn't just bring bread. She brought hope, a reminder that even on a harsh frontier planet, life could be warm, human, and full of the next morning. The sun rose slowly over the jagged cliffs of Redspire, spilling golden light over Eli's small homestead. The air was crisp, and the wind carried the faint scent of distant wildflowers that somehow survived in the dry red soil. Eli was awake early, as always. After last night's revelations, sleep had been light and restless. Thoughts of Lyra, of the children's laughter, and of his new responsibilities filled his mind. He dressed quickly, pulling on his worn boots and hat, and went outside to check the garden. The small plants he and the children had planted were showing signs of life. Tiny green shoots pushed through the red dust, reaching toward the suns. Eli smiled, a rare feeling of pride swelling in his chest. "Cowboy," a small voice called. Milo was already outside, waving a tiny hand. "Bread lady coming again." Eli shook his head with a small grin. "Not today, little one, but we'll make breakfast ourselves." Breakfast was a simple affair: dried meat, rehydrated vegetables, and small loaves of bread Eli had attempted to bake with the kids' help yesterday. The bread was far from perfect, uneven, slightly burnt in places, but the children laughed at their mistakes. Leela and Sammy were already full of energy, exploring the small canyon near the homestead, searching for the glowing stones they loved so much. Eli watched them, his heart heavy and light all at once. They reminded him of his brother, of what had been lost, and of what he now had to protect. It was a responsibility heavier than any load he had carried across the frontier, yet it felt right. As he set the last piece of bread on the table, the familiar hum of a hovercraft reached his ears. Eli froze, hand instinctively moving to the railing of the porch. Visitors were rare, especially this far from the main settlements. A figure appeared in the distance, moving toward them with a steady gait. The sunlight reflected off her hair, and even from here, Eli could see the basket strapped to her hovercraft. His chest tightened, not with fear but with recognition. Lyra Vale. She approached with the same calm confidence she had shown yesterday, and when she reached the homestead, she set down her baskets with a practiced ease. The smell of fresh bread immediately filled the air. The children ran toward her, laughter bubbling from their mouths. Milo clung to Eli's leg, hesitant but curious. "Good morning, Eli," Lyra said, smiling warmly. "I thought I'd check in on you and your little team. How's everything?" Eli nodded. "We're managing. They keep me busy." He glanced at the children who were already asking Lyra questions about the bread. "And you?" "I've been traveling between settlements," Lyra replied. "Delivering supplies, bringing news, helping wherever I can. I thought I'd stop by, see if you needed anything." Lyra's presence was comforting. She had a way of moving through the world that suggested ease and understanding. It was as if she belonged here, on Redspire, even more than he did. The children begged her to teach them more tricks, and she did. She showed them how to bake small loaves using solar ovens, how to filter water using simple gravity systems, and even how to set up small wind turbines to store energy for the homestead. Each lesson was paired with a story about another settlement, about human ingenuity, about the strength of people who work together. Eli watched, fascinated. The children were learning not just survival skills, but hope, creativity, and joy. And Lyra, she was teaching them without trying to control or command. She guided, encouraged, and inspired. After a while, Eli decided to step back and observe quietly. He realized something important. The frontier wasn't just about surviving harsh conditions. It was about thriving in them. Humans weren't just capable of living in Redspire, they were capable of making it better, brighter, safer, and warmer. "Eli," Lyra said softly, noticing his thoughtful stare, "you're doing more than you realize. These kids are lucky to have you." He shook his head. "I don't know if I'm doing it right. I've never been a parent." "You're learning," she said, handing him a small loaf of bread. "And that counts. That's what matters. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet. Like staying here for them, giving them a home, and protecting them." Eli felt warmth rise in his chest. She was right. The quiet courage, the daily effort, the unglamorous work of love, those were his strengths. The day passed quickly. Lyra helped the children set up a small playground using scrap wood, metal rods, and old wagon parts. They built swings, a climbing frame, and even a small slide. Eli contributed where he could, hammering, adjusting, and laughing when something fell apart. The children's laughter was infectious. By late afternoon, Lyra paused and looked toward the horizon. "I should be heading to the next settlement soon," she said, a hint of sadness in her voice. "But I'll be back, and if you need anything, you can send a message. I travel fast and I don't mind helping." The thought of her leaving already left Eli feeling a strange emptiness. "I thank you," he said quietly, "for the bread, the lessons, the everything." Lyra smiled. "Humans help each other, that's what we do. And I think you and these kids, you'll do great." When she left, the hovercraft rising and dust trailing behind, Eli felt the homestead seem suddenly quieter. The children were still playing, but the energy had shifted. There was a sense of possibility now, a sense of warmth that hadn't been there before. That night, after tucking the children into bed, Eli sat outside once more. The twin moons of Redspire shone over the cliffs, silver light spilling across the red dust. He thought of Lyra, of the warmth she had brought, and of the future he was now responsible for shaping. The wind carried a faint scent of bread, still lingering in the night air. He smiled, imagining the small victories to come. The garden thriving, the children learning, the homestead growing into a place of laughter, hope, and human ingenuity. It was quiet. It was beautiful. And for the first time in a long while, Eli felt he belonged, not just on Redspire, but in the life he was building. The next morning brought new challenges. The children were up early, full of energy and ideas. Sammy wanted to explore a nearby canyon. Leela was determined to find more glowing stones, and Milo just wanted to help carry buckets, learning quickly from every mistake. Eli knew he had to be vigilant. Red Spire was not a safe place for children alone. The planet had storms, cliffs, and wildlife that could be dangerous, but he also knew he couldn't shelter them from life entirely. Together, they explored. Eli carried Milo on his shoulders as Sammy and Leela led the way, pointing out strange rock formations and alien plants. Eli explained what he knew, which plants were safe, which rocks could hold water, and how to recognize signs of approaching storms. By midday, they returned to the homestead, tired but exhilarated. Eli set Milo down and found Lyra waiting. She had returned earlier than expected, her hovercraft humming softly in the yard. "I thought I'd check in," she said, smiling. "Looks like everyone's doing well." The children ran to her, jumping and hugging her, their laughter echoing across the cliffs. Eli felt a strange mixture of gratitude and awe. Lyra had brought more than bread this time. She had brought guidance, friendship, and hope. As the sun set, painting the horizon in shades of red and gold, Eli realized something important. Life on Red Spire was hard. It was unforgiving. But with human ingenuity, kindness, and a willingness to face challenges together, it could also be joyful. He looked at Lyra and the children, and he knew the frontier would never feel lonely again. The next morning on Red Spire began quietly, the twin suns rising over jagged cliffs and bathing the homestead in warm light. Eli Rourke moved through his morning routine as usual, feeding the small livestock, checking the garden, and repairing a broken fence panel. The children were already awake, Leela and Sammy exploring the yard while Milo followed Eli like a tiny shadow. Life felt normal, or at least as normal as it could on this harsh frontier planet. Eli had started to find a rhythm. The routines, the children's laughter, and Lyra's guidance had made the homestead a place of stability. But Red Spire had a way of reminding anyone who dared to think life was simple that danger could come at any moment. It started with the hum, a low, mechanical noise unlike anything Eli had heard before. He froze, listening. The children's laughter faded into curious silence. Leela tilted her head. "Cowboy, what's that sound?" Eli's hand went to his sidearm, though he rarely used it. He stepped toward the ridge that overlooked the canyon and squinted into the bright light. There, glinting in the morning sun, was a figure unlike any human. A sleek, metallic shape moved across the terrain, shimmering, angular, and clearly intelligent. Eli recognized it immediately, a rogue AI scavenger. Red Spire had been plagued by them in the past, autonomous machines left behind from mining operations and abandoned colonies. Most were harmless, scavenging metal and water, but some had become dangerous, learning to manipulate their environment to survive. He called the children close. "Stay here," he instructed, his voice calm but firm. "Do not move. Do you understand?" Sammy nodded solemnly, Leela clutched his arm, and Milo hid behind Eli's legs. "Is it a bad machine?" Milo whispered. "Yes, little one, but we'll handle it." Eli didn't panic. Panic didn't solve problems on Red Spire. Thinking did. And humans, when they put their minds together, were capable of incredible ingenuity. He quickly surveyed the homestead. There were metal scraps, old tools, and gadgets left over from previous settlers. He grabbed the children's small tools and explained a plan. "We're not going to fight it directly. That would be dangerous, but we can trick it. We can outsmart it." Lyra's voice came from behind him, calm and confident. "You're right. These AIs are clever, but they follow patterns. We can make it think the homestead is uninteresting, while protecting ourselves." The children watched, wide-eyed, as Eli and Lyra moved with efficiency. They set up small decoys, scrap metal shapes covered with dust, glowing stones placed to mislead sensors, and a simple alarm system using tripwires and cans. It wasn't fancy, but it was clever. Leela's eyes shone. "We're like real explorers," she whispered. "Yes," Eli said, smiling. And sometimes explorers have to be clever to survive. By mid-morning, the rogue AI scavenger had approached the homestead. It moved with precise, calculated steps, its sensors scanning for signs of metal or life. The decoys worked initially. It paused, tilted its head, and began to analyze the false targets. Eli held his breath, watching from behind a rock. "Now," Lyra whispered. She activated a small signal flare, distracting the machine. Its sensors turned toward the moving light, and for a moment it ignored the homestead entirely. Sammy grinned. "It's working." But the machine adapted quickly. Its sensors flickered, scanning again. It seemed to recognize the trap. Eli knew they had only minutes before the AI would investigate the homestead directly. He turned to the children. "Time for another trick. Remember what I taught you?" "Yes," Leela and Sammy shouted, rushing to help. Even Milo toddled forward, carrying a small piece of scrap metal. Eli directed them to create a distraction, a series of small fires using solar igniters, combined with scattered glowing stones. The rogue AI paused, seemingly confused by the unexpected changes in heat and light patterns. It spun in place, analyzing, but its movements became erratic. Lyra joined Eli at the ridge, scanning the situation. "It's working. Keep it busy long enough for the children to move safely into the hidden bunker." Eli nodded. "Children, go. Milo, hold my hand." The children ran toward a small, reinforced bunker buried beneath the cliffs. It had been built as a storm shelter, but now it served as a safe haven. Eli and Lyra covered them, signaling with small mirrors and light flashes to mislead the AI. The machine approached the homestead directly, its metallic claws scraping the red dust. But the combination of decoys, fires, and misdirection confused it. For a moment it stopped, rotated, and finally retreated toward the canyon, seemingly unable to determine which objects were valuable or dangerous. Eli exhaled slowly. He lowered his rifle. "It's gone for now." Lyra clapped him on the shoulder. "That was quick thinking. Humans are resourceful when they need to be." Eli felt pride swelling in him, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. This was Redspire. The planet could be beautiful, but it demanded respect and intelligence to survive. And he wasn't just responsible for himself now, he had the children and Lyra depending on him too. The children emerged from the bunker cautiously, their faces full of excitement and relief. "We did it," Leela shouted. "We tricked the machine." "Yes," Eli said, kneeling to their level. "But remember, we survived because we worked together. That's what makes humans strong. Not weapons, not armor, but brains, courage, and teamwork." Lyra smiled, kneeling beside the children. "And creativity. Never forget creativity." The children nodded solemnly, understanding the lesson even if they didn't grasp the full danger they had just faced. Over the next hours, Eli and Lyra repaired the small damages the rogue AI had caused. Broken fences, disturbed soil, and scattered tools were restored. The children helped where they could, learning more about survival and ingenuity than any classroom could teach. As the suns began to set, Eli looked at the horizon. The rogue AI scavenger had not returned, but he knew this was only the first test. Redspire had many secrets and dangers waiting beyond the homestead, but for the first time, he felt confident that his small family could handle them. Lyra stayed late, helping Eli set up more protective measures. Together, they built a small early warning system using metal scraps, glowing stones, and a simple sensor from an old mining drone. It wasn't perfect, but it was clever, and humans were clever. The children watched in awe. "You two are amazing," Sammy said. Eli smiled, ruffling his hair. "We're all amazing, even you two. And Milo." Milo beamed, holding a small piece of wire he had fixed. Night fell, and the homestead glowed softly from small lanterns and solar lights. The wind whistled through the cliffs, carrying the faint scent of baked bread and dry red dust. Eli sat outside with Lyra, watching the twin moons rise. "You handled that well," Lyra said quietly. The AI could have destroyed the homestead, but you didn't panic. You used your mind and you taught the children to be brave too. Eli shook his head. I don't know about that, I just did what needed to be done. And I learned from you, she smiled, reaching for his hand. We all learn from each other. That's what humans do best. Adapt, survive, and grow stronger together. Eli thought about the days and nights they had shared, the lessons, the laughter, and the trials. Red Spire was harsh, yes, but it also brought out the best in people. And maybe, just maybe, it was the perfect place to build a future. As the wind carried the sound of distant rocks shifting and the faint hum of machines far away, Eli felt a strange sense of peace. They had faced danger, and they had survived. Together, humans had proven their strength, not through force but through courage, intelligence, and heart. The children were asleep inside, Lyra by his side, and the homestead stood intact against the frontier. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, he knew that. But tonight they had won. And in the quiet glow of the twin moons, Eli realized that this was only the beginning. He looked toward the stars and imagined a future full of possibility, a home full of laughter, a family bound by love and courage, and humans rising to meet the unknown with ingenuity and hope. Red Spire was harsh. But humans were unstoppable. The morning on Red Spire was different. The twin suns rose slowly, painting the jagged cliffs with orange and gold, but there was tension in the air. Eli Rourke knew the rogue AI scavenger they had encountered days before was just a scout. The quiet hum that had haunted the homestead at night had returned, fainter at first, then louder, as if more machines were coming. He checked the perimeter carefully. The small warning system he and Lyra had built, the combination of scrap sensors, solar lights, and tripwires, showed signs of interference. Someone or something was approaching. Eli called the children inside. Listen closely, he said, kneeling so they could see his face. We might have visitors, but we're going to be smart. We're going to protect ourselves, and we're going to do it together. Sammy's eyes were serious, like a little adult. Are they like the last one, Cowboy? He asked. Stronger, Eli said, but we're smarter. We'll use our brains. Leela tugged at his sleeve. Can we help? Yes, Eli said firmly. Everyone has a job. You listen, you follow instructions, and you stay brave. Milo, small and curious, held Eli's hand tightly. Cowboy, me too. Yes, Milo, you too. By mid-morning, the first signs of the larger threat appeared. Shadows moved across the canyon, glinting metallic surfaces catching the sun's light. There were more than one now, at least 5 rogue AI scavengers, sleek and menacing. They moved with intelligence, scanning for life and metal, communicating silently with their sensors. Eli and Lyra moved quickly. We can't fight them, Lyra said, scanning the machines. Too many, but we can mislead them, slow them down, and keep the homestead safe. He nodded, already thinking. Red Spire was a harsh place, and survival required not just strength but cleverness. Humans had always survived by adapting, by thinking faster than their opponents. Today would be no different. The children were assigned tasks suited to their age. Sammy and Leela helped create diversions using mirrors and reflective surfaces, while Milo carried small weights and helped tie wires for alarms. Lyra and Eli set up larger traps, scrap metal positioned to fall and create noise, glowing stones to confuse sensors, and simple pulleys to move objects remotely. Eli looked at Lyra, determination in his eyes. We need to buy time. If they reach the homestead, it could be bad. She nodded. We can do this. Humans are clever, resourceful. We just need to stay one step ahead. The first machine approached, its sensors scanning for life. Eli triggered a tripwire, sending a series of small metal rods clattering to the ground. The AI paused, tilted, and recalculated. It turned toward a pile of glowing stones, clearly confused by the false readings. Sammy giggled. It's working, Cowboy. Quiet, Eli whispered. We're not done yet. The next few hours became a game of strategy and creativity. Eli and Lyra directed the children with precision. moving decoys, activating lights, and creating distractions. The machines adapted quickly, but humans adapted faster. They used the terrain to their advantage, leading the AI into narrow canyon passages where the machine's larger size became a problem. Leela's face lit up. "Look, they can't move there," Eli smiled. "Exactly. Sometimes brains beat strength." One of the rogue AI scavengers managed to reach the edge of the homestead, its sensors glowing red as it examined the structures. Eli triggered a final trap, a pulley system he had built with Lyra's help. A stack of scrap metal toppled, creating noise and scattering dust. The AI paused, unable to distinguish between the real and fake targets, and retreated to the canyon with the others. Eli exhaled slowly. "That's them for now." The children cheered quietly, excitement and relief blending together. Milo clapped his hands and shouted, "We did it." Lyra knelt beside Eli. "You see, humans can face anything if they work together. Ingenuity, courage, teamwork, that's what wins battles." Eli nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "We're learning that every day." But the victory was not without cost. The homestead had minor damage, fences bent, tools scattered, and the garden partially trampled. Eli and the children worked together, repairing, rebuilding, and cleaning up. It was exhausting but necessary. Humans had always rebuilt, and Red Spire was no exception. As they worked, Lyra prepared a simple meal. Using leftover rations, she created a stew enhanced with vegetables from their struggling garden. The smell was comforting, a small oasis of warmth in the harsh frontier. The children gathered around, eating hungrily. "We saved the homestead," Leela exclaimed, crumbs around her mouth. "Yes," Eli said, smiling. "But remember, survival isn't just about winning fights. It's about preparing, thinking, and taking care of each other. That's what makes humans strong." Night fell, the twin moons casting silver light over the cliffs. Eli and Lyra sat outside, listening to the wind whistle through the canyon. The children slept peacefully inside, their small bodies exhausted but safe. "You did well," Lyra said quietly. "Even with the machines, you stayed calm, organized, and creative. Most people would panic." Eli shook his head. "I learned from you, and from them," he said, nodding toward the homestead where the children had helped in every step. "Humans are amazing when they work together." The night passed quietly, but Eli knew this was only the beginning. Red Spire held many secrets and dangers, but it also offered opportunity. They had survived the first real threat, and they had learned that humans, small, clever, and persistent, could face even the toughest challenges. The next morning brought a new plan. Eli and Lyra decided to fortify the homestead further. Using salvaged metal, old mining equipment, and their own ingenuity, they built reinforced walls, improved the early warning system, and set up small, clever traps designed to mislead any approaching threat. The children helped enthusiastically, carrying small tools, stacking rocks, and even designing a few creative traps of their own. Milo, small but determined, placed glowing stones in strategic positions, delighted by the tiny lights. Eli watched, amazed. "They're learning fast." "Humans are unstoppable when they think creatively." Lyra smiled. "Exactly, and they're learning courage too, not just physical bravery but thinking on their feet, working as a team, and protecting what they love." By midday, the homestead was stronger, more organized, and more prepared than ever. Eli looked out toward the horizon. The rogue AI scavengers had not returned, but he knew they, or others like them, would be back. And when they did, humans would be ready. "Cowboy," Sammy said, tugging at his sleeve, "do you think we can stop them next time too?" Eli knelt, meeting his eyes. "I know we can, because we're humans, we're clever, strong, and we don't give up. And because we work together, we can face anything." Leela hugged his arm. "I like that, Cowboy. I want to help every time." "You will," Eli said. "We'll face everything together." As the sun set, painting the cliffs in shades of red and gold, Eli felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. Red Spire was harsh, yes, but it brought out the best in humans. Courage, ingenuity, teamwork, and care for each other. These were the things that made life worth living. Lyra sat beside him, offering a warm smile. Humans always find a way, she said. Yes, Eli agreed, looking at the homestead, the children, and the canyon beyond. And we always will. The night was calm, the wind carrying the scent of red dust and faint bread from Lyra's small oven. Eli watched the stars rise over the cliffs, feeling hope, pride, and determination. The frontier was hard, but humans could conquer it one clever, brave step at a time. And tomorrow, they would face new challenges. But together they would rise. The morning sun rose over Red Spire, casting golden light on the rugged cliffs and dust-red plains. Eli Rourke stood on the porch of his homestead, surveying the landscape with a sense of calm determination. The rogue AI scavengers had returned, as he had suspected, but this time, he and his family were ready. The homestead had transformed over the past weeks. Reinforced walls of scrap metal now surrounded the small buildings. Clever early warning systems blinked and whirred in silent readiness, and small solar ovens and water filters dotted the yard. But the most important change was not in the structures, it was in the people living there. The children, once scared and unsure, were now confident, resourceful, and brave. Sammy and Leela moved with purpose, ready to help wherever needed. Milo, tiny but determined, clutched his small toolkit and followed Eli everywhere. And Lyra, she stood beside Eli, calm, clever, and ready to face whatever came their way. Eli looked at them, pride swelling in his chest. "Remember what I said," he told the children. "Humans are clever. Humans work together. Humans don't give up. And today, we show them that." The first signs of the scavengers appeared on the horizon. Metallic shapes glinting in the sunlight moved steadily toward the homestead. This time there were even more than before, 10 machines, sleek and menacing, moving as if coordinated by a single mind. Lyra knelt beside the children. "Stay calm, stay smart, follow instructions and you'll be fine," Sammy nodded. "We're ready." Leela held his hand. Milo clutched his little tools tightly. Eli took a deep breath. "Then let's begin." The plan was simple but clever. Using their knowledge of the terrain, the machine's patterns, and human ingenuity, Eli and Lyra set a series of traps and diversions. Mirrors reflected sunlight into the AI sensors, pulleys moved decoy objects, and glowing stones created false heat signatures. The children played their roles perfectly, moving supplies, activating simple alarms, and keeping the machines distracted. The rogue AI scavengers approached cautiously, scanning for life and metal. But humans had learned from every encounter. Each trap slowed them, misled them, and forced them to rethink their approach. Eli watched, heart racing, as the machines adapted, but so did he. So did the children. At a critical moment, one of the scavengers reached the edge of the homestead. Eli triggered the largest trap, a stack of metal sheets balanced on a pulley system. The sheets toppled, creating a loud crash, sending the AI spinning backward and drawing the others into narrow canyon paths. Leela cheered. "We did it, Cowboy." "Not yet," Eli said, a smile tugging at his lips. "We keep going until they're gone." Over the next few hours, humans and machines engaged in a battle of wits. The machines were fast, precise, and relentless, but the humans were clever, coordinated, and adaptable. Every decoy worked, every distraction counted, and every small obstacle slowed the scavengers' progress. Lyra moved beside Eli, directing the children and improvising as needed. "Remember," she said, "we're stronger together. Humans don't give up. Humans think, create, and survive." The machines began to retreat, confused and unable to penetrate the homestead's defenses. Eli breathed a sigh of relief. The battle was over for now, but the victory was real. Humans had faced a threat far larger than themselves and had survived using nothing but brains, courage, and teamwork. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in red and gold, The children ran to Eli and Lyra, laughing and full of excitement. Milo jumped into Eli's arms. "We did it, Cowboy, we really did it." Eli hugged him tightly. "Yes, we did, and we did it together." Lyra smiled warmly. "You all did amazing today. I'm proud of every one of you." That night the homestead was calm. The wind whispered through the cliffs, carrying the faint smell of baked bread from Lyra's oven. Eli sat outside, watching the twin moons rise, and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Redspire had tested them, and humans had risen to meet the challenge. The next day, Eli and Lyra worked with the children to repair the minor damage from the machine's visit. Broken fences were fixed, tools reorganized, and the garden tended. Every task became a lesson in ingenuity, resilience, and teamwork. "You know," Eli said as they worked, "I never thought I could do this. Take care of a family, protect a home, and face dangers like this. But now I see what humans are capable of." Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft but serious. "Humans are amazing, Eli, and so is your family. You're all learning, growing, and surviving together. That's what matters." The children worked alongside them, learning faster than ever. Sammy designed small traps of his own, inspired by Eli and Lyra's techniques. Leela experimented with reflective surfaces and glowing stones to confuse sensors. Milo, small but determined, carried water and supplies with pride. By evening, the homestead was not just repaired. It was stronger, smarter, and safer than ever before. Humans had built something that machines could not destroy: a home, a family, and a community bound by courage, creativity, and care. Lyra prepared a meal, and they all gathered together, sharing food and stories. The children laughed, and for the first time the grief of losing their father felt softened by love and hope. After dinner, Eli sat outside once more. The twin moons hung over the cliffs, silver light spilling across the red dust. He looked at the stars and imagined a future full of possibilities. A future where humans could survive anywhere, thrive anywhere, and bring warmth, courage, and ingenuity to even the harshest worlds. Lyra joined him quietly. "You've built something amazing here," she said. "Not just a home, but a family. And the frontier will always challenge you, but you're ready." Eli nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the strength that came with it. "I couldn't have done it without you. And the kids, they've taught me more than I could ever imagine." Lyra smiled. "Humans are unstoppable when they work together, and you've proven it today." The night passed quietly, the wind carrying the soft sound of the children's breathing and the faint hum of distant rocks shifting. Eli felt peace he hadn't known in years. They had faced danger, survived, and grown stronger. And they were not just surviving, they were thriving. In the days that followed, Eli and Lyra worked with the children to expand the homestead further. Small greenhouses were built, using solar power and clever irrigation systems. Water collection systems were improved. Tools and supplies were organized, and the early warning system refined. Word spread to nearby settlements about the clever humans on Redspire who had faced rogue AI scavengers and survived using intelligence and courage. Other settlers began to visit, learning from Eli and Lyra, sharing ideas, and helping build a small network of strong, resilient homesteads across the frontier. The children flourished. Sammy became a skilled strategist, Leela a clever inventor, and Milo was the heart of the family, reminding them all to laugh, to hope, and to care. Eli realized something profound. The frontier was not just about survival. It was about humans proving themselves over and over in the face of impossible odds. Strength, creativity, courage, and love, these were what humans brought to any world. And as the twin moons rose over the cliffs, casting silver light over the homestead, Eli felt a deep sense of pride and belonging. The rogue AI scavengers had been a test, and humans had passed. Together they had built something stronger than any machine: a home, a family, and hope for the future. Lyra took his hand, the warmth of her smile matching the warmth of the home they had built. "This is just the beginning," she said. Eli nodded. "Yes. Together we can face anything. The frontier is ours." And under the twin moons of Redspire, the Rourke family, Eli, Lyra, Sammy, Leela, and Milo, looked toward the stars, ready for whatever the galaxy would bring. They were human, clever, and unstoppable. And the frontier had never felt brighter.